Okay, welcome everybody. Day 2 of our staff conference, Engage. Hope you had a really good day yesterday. I certainly thoroughly enjoyed all of the sessions I went to, and I've had really good feedback from various people I've kind of bumped into who've said, yeah, actually I've got a really good takeaway from something yesterday. Wasn't it fantastic to have Colin Jackson opening the conference? He was just superb, you know, honest, open, funny, lot of name dropping. Needless to say, I have no big names to drop into my presentation this morning. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of a look back over the past year and a look forward. And this is focused on learning and teaching, but that doesn't mean that we're not all involved in some way in supporting the student experience in terms of learning and teaching. So that's my kind of focus, but I'd like, as we go through, for you to think about, well, you know, what part have I played in that success, or what part could I play going forwards? Whether you're an academic colleague, a member of professional services, it doesn't matter. We're all in it together in terms of supporting future success and opportunities for our students. Come to the front, gentlemen. So a bit of a look back and looking forwards as well. So looking back, celebrating some of the successes of the past year. So this is all to do with our strategy for supporting student learning and achievement. Lots and lots going on. You can kind of look at, I've kind of picked out a few highlights for me really. Lots of stuff there. We did a lot of work around e-assessment, getting stuff online, making sure that we're handing stuff in electronically. We exceeded our targets there. So last year, about 90% of our modules had some sort of form of e-submission, e-assessment, and around 65% were engaging with e-feedback. So we're going to build on that this year, which is great, and we've had very good student feedback around that. Our Shape and Create events, this is about supporting programme development. So Shape, supporting a holistic approach to programme enhancement, and Create, collaboration for reviewing and enhancing assessment and teaching excellence. So we piloted Create, and we're going to be moving that forwards this year as well. NSS successes across many subject areas. Although we dipped institutionally, there were still some areas of outstanding performance. I don't usually do this, but I'm actually going to do a shout out to particular areas. So you can smugly congratulate yourselves if you're perhaps in one of these areas. So these areas attained over 90% overall satisfaction in the NSS. Some of them achieved 100%. So we had animal studies, occupational therapy, our education programme related to additional learning special educational needs, criminology, computer game development, and forensic science. So huge congratulations to those areas, and that shows that great things can be done with a very focused, I would say, programme leadership, actually. There were other areas with small cohorts that wouldn't have made the NSS rankings, but they are still doing great stuff. And you know who you are because you're getting great feedback through things like the student evaluation and modules. So good stuff there. HEA Fellowship, we had 17 colleagues achieving HEA Fellowship, whether it was through the PG CPD or our in-house accredited scheme. So if you're one of those individuals, many congratulations. We rolled out peer observation of teaching. We exceeded our targets in terms of engagement with Welsh medium credits, for 5 Welsh medium credits. Lots of work to do there. And of course, we just pause and remember our colleague Julie, who we sadly lost over the year. But she was incredibly influential in us moving on our Welsh medium provision. And we'll be building on that further, working with Ellen Mai in particular as our new Welsh medium champion. And our Glyndor graduate attitudes, attributes and skill sets. If you were in the employability session yesterday, you would have seen more information about this. We got those up and running. A module was developed and piloted, and we're going to be building on that and really moving forwards with that this year for the benefit of our students. So lots of stuff there to do with the strategy. Moving on, more good stuff. We had our QAA quality enhancement review. Quite a few people in the room were involved in that. We probably had, I think, around 60 or 70 people involved at various points over the preparation time and actually during the event. We had a tremendous outcome from this. We had an affirmation for our work with students as partners and 2 fabulous commendations. One around the support that we give to individual students, personalised support, which shouldn't be a surprise because that's what we're all about. And one around our strategic approach to enhancing the student learning experience, which is fantastic. So all that work that we did around our vision and strategy, our supporting strategies, was been recognised as having absolute relevance to the student learning experience. So thank you if you're involved in the QEA, QER. They're not coming back for 6 years. Hooray! However, next year I think we have our HEFQ triennial review, which is a kind of a mini-me QAA. It's a very, very mini-me QAA, but we will still need to do a little bit of work around that next spring, summertime. So tremendous successes there. More interesting stuff going on. Yesterday, at the end of the day, we had a fabulous presentation from some colleagues who had received Delta funding. If you haven't picked up about this fund, this is about developing excellence in learning, teaching, assessment. It's a small pot of money that I have, that David has kindly let me have control over. And he was at the session yesterday, and I think was impressed by what we're able to do with small amounts of money. So, you know, a few £100, normally between about £200 and £500 to different areas to actually push forward on specific projects that support the student experience. So yes, so the sorts of things we fund are all there. And yesterday we heard about some anatomy resources in sports rehab. We heard about TV screens and other equipment in psychology, which has helped enhance the equipment in the psychology lab there. And we heard about Nathan's work with specific technology and how that's enabled, by sourcing cheap alternatives, it's enabled him to roll out some significant programs, not only for his students but for the wider community. So a lot can be done with a small amount, and I count this as a real success because we've had this now for a couple of years, and people are starting to realise that there is a little bit of funding out there. So I'll be putting out another call for Delta in the next couple of weeks, so look out for it. It will probably come through Campus Talk to an Associate Dean if you want a little bit more information and want to learn about it. But yeah, excellent stuff there. And also, even more great stuff. We had even more staff development opportunities throughout the year. Hopefully everyone in the room came to something, even just once. We had our learning lunches on Fridays, but we actually also extended those to some Wednesdays as well to improve accessibility for some colleagues who couldn't make Fridays. They were very well attended. We introduced 3 or 4 bite-sized best practice sessions, very short, snappy sessions headed up by Caroline Hughes to showcase best practice. It'd be great to see that continuing this year. We started our programme leaders module, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. A very significant part of our portfolio for training in terms of raising standards across the board. And we've had colleagues going through that. We've had our Future Leaders programme. I think we had around a dozen people going through that over the past year. And certainly I was in on some of the presentations towards the end of one of the cohorts, which was great. You know, clearly people are really enjoying working together across different departmental boundaries, learning stuff. We also had last year, for the first time, we sponsored 5 places on the Aurora programme, which, sorry gents, it's women only, so you can go to sleep for 10 seconds. This is a UK leading programme run by Advance HE, training for aspiring leaders in education who are female, called Aurora. We sponsored 5 colleagues through that, and we're looking to sponsor 10 colleagues through that over the coming year. So again, we'll make sure we get details of that out in due course, so look out for that. It's quite a tough selection process. Last year, we had candidates who had to present to me, the Vice-Chancellor, and Linda Powell. Pretty heavy interview process, but it was fantastic. And talked to Christina, she got through it and was one of the lucky ones. So plenty of opportunities there. And our new teaching spaces. So I was looking back at the sort of dates on these, and the gallery, Scale Up, and obviously the B Corridor have all happened in the past academic year. So we didn't kind of properly open up Scale Up until the very, very beginning of the last academic year. It was a little bit last minute, but it's all been good, and obviously the gallery space there and the B Corridor. So that is an incredible achievement in terms of getting all that stuff up and running very, very quickly, and really, really good in terms of the added value we're now able to bring to the overall student experience. We're getting some great comments, particularly from prospective students and their families at open days, for example. Some people have perhaps come into the university, maybe local people who've not been in for a while, and they're saying, okay, this looks a bit different to 20 years ago. And I'm saying, yeah. So, you know, encourage folk to come in and have a look round. They don't have to wait for an open day. We can organise tours at any moment. And we're getting very good comments around the standard of some of these rooms in terms of comparability to our competitors, the lovely John Moores, Manchester Met, etc., etc. So great stuff there, and huge thanks to Linda, who's been heading up the Campus 2025 developments. It's a bit stressful sometimes, isn't it, Linda? But all good, all good. So lots and lots of incredible stuff has happened over the past year. It's a micro level and at a macro level. And I hope that as you reflect on that, you think, oh yeah, actually I was a part of that. Maybe just a small part, but yes, I was a part of that in some small way in terms of supporting our students through making sure that we're getting good results in relation to the student experience. So, moving on quickly, because there's lots to get through. Looking forwards, new challenges. There are always challenges. This is higher education in 2019. There will be challenges, but also with challenges, hopefully come opportunities as well. So I want to run through some of those things as we look forward over the next year. So what are we doing in terms of learning and teaching? Well, we're continuing to focus on our current strategy for supporting student learning and achievement. You'll notice that throughout this presentation I've tried to drop in our values just to remind ourselves that this is what we're all about at the moment. The SSSLA is all about accessible and innovative and ambitious learning opportunities, being ambitious for our students, wanting them to achieve far beyond perhaps what they thought was ever possible. Comes back to Colin's talk yesterday morning as well about that dreaming aspect. And just to remind you, we have 5 elements to our strategy. We have an element around the curriculum, what is our offer, the element around teaching, great teaching in particular, assessment, personalised support for our students as highlighted by the QAA as a real strength, so lots of great stuff to build on there, and working with our students as partners, again highlighted by the QAA as an area of emerging strength, which is fantastic. So just very briefly, in terms of the curriculum, we're constantly looking at our portfolio. I work very closely with the deans, virtually I'm asking them all the time, probably a bit fed up with it. You know, what's coming up? What's on the horizon? What might we be doing in 5 years' time? What do we need to switch off and what can we switch on? We have to be agile and we have to be responsive in order to provide the right curriculum for the students who are out there in our market. So in terms of some of the initiatives that we've developed over the past year and looking forward to over the coming year, so we've now got a strong undergraduate physiotherapy programme, which is tremendous. That has been massively oversubscribed, considering we didn't get it up and running until quite late in the cycle. A lot of interest in that, which is fantastic. And I know Simon Stewart is keen to build up on that kind of allied health portfolio, and we've got a good platform there. We now have teacher education. I went to talk last week or the week before to 30 primary PGCE QTS students, which is fantastic. We haven't had that for a few years here. So this is our programme, flagship programme, being developed with St Mary's University down in London. So it's a St Mary's Award, but it's being taught here. They are an Ofsted outstanding provider. They have a huge reputation UK-wide and globally, and we're really pleased to basically be piggybacking on the back of that, which is great. So QTS going on. We've also just started an undergraduate programme with QTS, and we look forward to that building over the coming year. We've redeveloped professional policing to meet all the requirements of the Policing College. Again, that's providing a very popular programme, and lots of really good partnership opportunities as well there. We have vet nursing in development, and we're looking forward to that coming on stream over the coming year. That's a significant kind of move for us. So building on the work we're doing around animal studies, but taking into quite a different sphere, and that will all be professionally accredited by the Royal College for Veterinary as well. And of course, I'm sure you're aware that apprenticeships are becoming a significant part, particularly of our engineering and our digital offer. So we have 80 plus apprentice places, I think, over the coming year. Yes, everyone's nodding, excellent. Which is great. Some run in partnership with partner colleges, some running here. So a different way of doing work-based learning, but certainly proving very popular and an area of growth for us. And as I said earlier, we're looking at further developments, particularly across allied health, biomedical sciences, and other elements of the portfolio as well. So things won't stand still. We have to keep looking at what's relevant, what can we develop, what do people need and what do people want. So lots going on there. In terms of teaching, talked about HEA fellowship earlier. We want to really push forwards on that. So if you're an academic member of staff or a professional member of staff involved in supporting learning and you want to find out more about that, then talk to Sue Horder. Is Sue here? Wave, Sue, thank you. That really helps us to reflect on what great teaching means. But also we're being supported in this with some of our new spaces. So the scale-up space, for example, is about doing things differently, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Assessment, I'll come back to in a moment as well, but we're still pushing on in terms of, you know, constantly challenging ourselves around our assessment strategies. What's appropriate, what isn't appropriate, are we doing too much, are we doing too little? I don't think we're doing too little, I think we're still doing a bit too much. But that's all part of our curriculum design, so a lot of work still going on with that. We, of course, continue to put students at the very centre of all that we do. And we know that our students need personalised support, a personalised approach, and that is getting easier as we get better at working across different departmental boundaries. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. As part of that, if you were at Sally and Sarah's session yesterday, we're now launching a new student mental health and wellbeing strategy. This is a whole university approach, and although that's being led by colleagues over in Student and Campus Life, that has such an impact on academic engagement, as we know. It's incredibly important, and I'll be getting involved in that with Linda so that we make sure that it's a obviously joined up approach across our academic and support services. And we're also building on actually some of the work we've been doing around civic mission and civic engagement, particularly related to social prescribing, and bringing that into some of our in-house strategies as well, looking to hopefully get a fair amount of funding from HEFQ, we hope, over the next month to support us in that. And of course, working with students as partners, we've got a new team now in the Student Union with a new Chief Executive Officer, Stephanie. If you haven't met her, go down and seek her out and have a chat. And we have Kieran and Ebony there as our sabbatical officers for the coming year. So we look forward to working very closely with them. The big thing about the SSSLA this year is that we will be doing a comprehensive review of the whole thing. And I'll be starting that in October. I'll be inviting people to come along to workshop type sessions, discussion sessions, dialogue sessions, because it runs out at the end of this academic year. It might be that we decide to keep these sorts of areas going forwards, or it might be that we decide to do something completely different. I hope you realise by now I'm pretty open-minded, and you know, I welcome feedback around which direction we might want to go, probably for the next 3 to 5 years, so that we're then aligned with the university strategy. Okay, so a few specifics now. Hopefully you're aware that we have an academic development team and a network of academic development team associates. We've got around 24, 25 people working on this at the moment. So it's a distributed team approach. It's a volunteer approach. And I've just been writing to ADT associates over the summer to say, do you want to carry on? Most people are carrying on, a few people are dipping out to do other things. I've already put out a call for new associates for the coming year, so if you're interested in that, talk to an associate dean or a dean or myself, or someone who's already involved, and it'd be great to have you on board. But this network are absolutely critical in terms of us moving things on the ground. If you see here on the right hand side, this is kind of how it works. So we have a central team, that's myself, working with the 2 Associate Deans for Student Engagement and the 2 Associate Deans for Academic Affairs. But really, all the work is done, not by us at all the work is done by these kind of project groups which kind of evolve and develop and get on with actually moving things forwards on the ground. Each project group has a convener and they're responsible just for kind of keeping tabs on what's going on and moving things forwards. So these are the areas that we're going to be looking at over the coming year, and again it all links back to our strategy. So we want to move on again in terms of our use of the scale-up room. We've got now a good small group of individuals who are quite confident using that room and using the scale-up methodology. Remember, it stands for, this is a real test, student-centred active learning environment with upside-down pedagogies. So if you're interested in finding out about that, talk to Colin Heron in particular, but also other people. Nathan in computing game development has been using it quite a lot as well, and people in education, Julian Ayres as well. We're actually going to be running some sort of workshops and training sessions over the coming year, so look out for that and please do get engaged. If we don't have people using that room, then we won't be making any more rooms like it. I know that's a bit of a veiled threat, but I'd love to see more of that work going on because the feedback from students is they find it incredibly helpful. It's a different way of learning, but it's an incredibly helpful way of learning. We're looking at increasing our capacity to develop recorded content in terms of lecture content, workshop content. And to help you do that, we put some capital money into developing a new digital learning centre. I think that's what we're calling it. Is that what? Great. Anne and Alicia say that's what we're calling it. That's up in the first floor B corridor, C corridor, on C corridor. We'll get some information out about it. This is a space where you can come to get help in terms of developing recorded content. There'll be kind of studio space, quiet space, digital widgets and things you can play with. This is important to us because as we move more to online content and a blended learning approach, we need the facilities to be able to develop that professionally. So really, really welcome this. So again, thank you to the senior team for providing some money and thank you to our digital team for supporting that initiative. The GIST Learning Analytics project, there was a session on this yesterday, I think. Some of you may have been there. We're piloting this over the first semester and into the second semester. This is a Pan-Wales project around collecting data related to student engagement. This is a really important project for us because we're a little bit behind the curve related to other universities. We're piloting it with 4 areas to start with. Stefan over in the Creative Industries building, psychology, Emily Kareem in psychology, Kathy Hewins on our mental health course, and sorry, Amy in forensics. So 4 brave, willing volunteers, maybe they weren't volunteered, I don't know, who are going to be working through that, and we'll be drip feeding information through about that over the year so that you can start to think about what it might mean for you going forwards. This is not about Big Brother snooping on students and kind of trying to second guess what they're doing because of the data that's being produced. It is very much about supporting students to be more engaged and autonomous through their learning journey by engaging in information that we can push to them that they can have a dialogue with their personal tutor or their program leader. So a significant project, a lot of work will be going on with that over the coming year. Create, I've already mentioned, that's now going to become a compulsory part of the validation process. So we have a team now of people who will be happy to engage in a workshop type style to support program development. It's a supportive workshop style type thing where it's about dialogue, it's about discussion, it's about challenge. You know, is that the right assessment strategy? Had you thought about that? Do you really need 120 hours to teach that module? Whatever it might be. But looking forward to seeing the results of that coming through. And again, we've had good feedback from people who've been involved so far. Assessment and feedback, lots of work to continue to do with that. Sue Horder and Neil Pickles will be leading on that in the respective faculties. We still need to streamline some of our processes. And I think we still need to be more critical around our assessment strategies at programme level and at module level. So they will be leading that work in the faculties. And I'll talk a little bit more about feedback and feedback turnaround times in a moment. Our enhancement theme this year is employability. It doesn't mean that we stop doing everything else, but there will be a particular focus on employability. So myself and Linda and Orle working together across the careers service and also the work-based learning unit and enterprise and into faculties to ensure that we've got a really good, coherent, joined-up approach to student employability. At the heart of that will be the Glyndŵr Graduate Employability Module. We see that as an important tool going forwards. We also want to see programmes mapping their programme content against the Glyndŵr Graduate Attitudes, Attributes and Skill Sets, and there'll be support to help you do that. So plenty of ADT associates involved in that and looking forward to that going forwards. We're continuing to pilot peer mentoring in a few areas, but this year we're particularly looking at the so what question of what difference does it make. So we want to evaluate whether a peer mentoring scheme really does help student retention and perhaps student achievement and certainly student satisfaction. So we've got a couple of areas involved in that. If we think that that is something that could be scalable and we do think there is impact, then we will look at perhaps investing in that area in the next academic year. And HEA fellowship I've already mentioned. So there's plenty of people who are involved in all these areas, but if you'd like to get more involved as an ADT associate, the details were in Campus Talk last week. They'll be in Campus Talk again today. Or if you can't find that, but you should be able to because it's pushed to your inbox, then drop Anne-Scar Jones a line and she'll make sure that you get the details and you can look at that application process. And talk to anyone who's already involved. They can tell you what it's actually like. There's also on the application process or the expression of interest process the link to the film that we made last year, which just gives an overview of what being an ADT associate is all about. Any questions so far? It's a little bit earlier in the morning than yesterday, isn't it? Okay. So as well as all that sort of direct stuff, if you like, related to learning and teaching, another big theme over the coming year is about being better at supporting the student journey and joining the dots up. You're all aware, I'm sure, that we had a major restructure across registry and strategic planning over the past year. We now have one unified directorate of strategic planning and student administration. I think there's a session later on today which goes through that in a little bit more detail. But this project, this reconfiguration, the new directorate, is all about streamlining, simplifying, digitising, self-service, being smarter in terms of what we do. All organisations go through periods of growth and then periods of shrinkage. And unfortunately, whether you're growing or shrinking, you don't sometimes press the pause button and look at all the processes and systems and organisational structures that are in place. And the danger is you end up kind of just adding stuff on or taking stuff away without thinking it through. So we've really started with a blank sheet of paper with this new directorate, and we've thought about the different aspects of the student journey and what support they need along the way and how that interacts back into the faculties in particular, as well as across the different professional services. This will continue to evolve, to adapt and to flex. I said before, we can't stand still in higher education. We have to be responsive. So there may be more changes, but we need to try this out and see how it goes. We're trying to create space and opportunity to think and act differently. Now that's a really tough one because we're all maxed out, we're all very busy. But if you can think about investing in that for yourself, just creating a little bit of space to think and act differently, then you'll find that it's an investment worth making further down the line. Sometimes we need to actually put in our diary, I don't know, once a month, just 2 hours, stop, think, clear your desk, look at what's going on. I'd encourage you to think about that because that's important to all of us. We think that the new structures will facilitate even better cross-faculty and interdepartmental collaboration. I think that's been getting better and better over the past couple of years anyway, but we think that this will just perhaps unlock that potential even more. And crucially, this is all about evidence-informed decision-making, data plus. And I put data plus because particularly if you were at Helen Eustace's session yesterday about data, and it is being repeated today, she was very, very clear that data in itself is a very blunt instrument. She had a picture of a big mallet, I think, at that point. But what we can use data for is to stimulate discussion, to ask questions, to dig into an issue, to try to understand a problem. So here at Wrexham Glyndŵr, yes, data is important, but we are not solely driven by data. We have to be driven by the whole context and the whole picture and understanding where that's situated in terms of staff and student experience. So data is important, but there is a health warning there as well. So please, consider those things, and in particular, perhaps consider creating some space to think and act differently as we go forwards. Okay, nearly there. I think one of my key messages for the coming year is that I'd like us to see us doing things well. I know that sounds a bit obvious, but we still fall down sometimes, I think, in some areas where we don't do things quite as well as we could be, for whatever reason. But I'd like to see us doing things well because that will benefit us all. If things are done well, it's far less stressful because we're not picking up pieces afterwards. If things are done well, we're managing student expectations. They know where they are. If things are done well, you'll probably find that you've got colleagues who are actually even happier to help you out when you've got a real crisis moment. Okay? If we get some of the basic things done well. And these are some of the things that I've highlighted as areas where I'd like us to do things well. I gave a shout out to the high performing areas in the NSS earlier, which is fantastic. However, because of our profile as a university, we are under the spotlight, particularly from the Funding Council and Welsh Government currently, in terms of what is, on the face of it, looks like overall poor performance. So we have got some significant action plans across NSS areas this year, both at subject level, at faculty level, and particularly around our learning resources, where we're still struggling to get anywhere near our benchmark in terms of NSS. I'm really grateful to Linda and the team and also to our faculty deans and our faculty business managers, because they are absolutely crucial here in terms of us working together to get this nailed. But this does mean that everybody has got to pull together. Everybody has got a part to play here. Whether it's making sure that we as quickly as possible get the new books onto the bookshelves in the library, or get the help sheets fixed up for how to access online resources, or whether it's other things around organisation and management at programme level. So you should be aware, if you're not already, if you're in a faculty, and certainly if you're working in Linda's area, you'll be aware of action plans going on there. Assessment feedback timescales. This is an area where we can definitely do things well and definitely be much better. So currently we have a policy of 15-day turnaround, and by and large, but it's only by and large, it's not 100%, we manage to stick to that. Sometimes things happen, unavoidable things happen if people are off sick or whatever it might be. But we have had instances where we could have avoided poor turnaround times in relation to feedback. And this has really pulled us down in the NSS. In the assessment questions, I think there were 4 questions in that section for assessment. On 2 or 3 of them, we actually perform at or above benchmark. For assessment feedback turnaround, so timeliness of feedback, we are way down. It's pulled us down 10 or 15 percentage points. So if we could really, really pull together to work on this, this is a quick win for us because this is totally within our control. I know the NSS is another very blunt instrument. We all know that. We all know it's about how students feel on a particular day at a particular time. But in terms of their assessment feedback, they will look back over the past year and say yes or no. Yes, I got all my feedback in time, or no, actually no, I didn't get all my feedback in time. And they will mark accordingly. So if there's one thing I'd like us to see us doing this year, is to get this sorted and to do this well. Attendance monitoring. This is incredibly important because this is one of our data collection points for the GIST Learning Analytics project. I know we've had some technical issues over the past year around some aspects of attendance monitoring, but we think we're getting that sorted now. We have a working group in terms of looking at retention generally that is looking at attendance monitoring as well. But again, if you're an academic member of staff, please engage with this process. If we do not have the data, we cannot help our students. And we still have a problem with retention. If there is a practical issue, then please talk to your faculty business manager or talk or mention it to James Dawson in Strategic Planning Student Administration or Steve Clegg, who's our Student Administration Manager. Please don't let it just go by. I know I sound like I'm nagging, and I am, but it's really important that we nail this. We need this information and we need it to feed into the learning analytics process. Retention is still an issue for us. We have seen a little bit improvement, we think, with some of our groups over the past year, but we haven't got all the data in yet. We'll hopefully know a little bit more about that within the next couple of weeks. But it's something we still need to keep on top of. And again, as I said earlier, what we want to see is very much a holistic approach to this. This is as much about academic progress as well as about supporting health and well-being and those kind of life events that come along and interrupt students' studies. And we know that our students lead generally pretty complex, difficult lives. We understand that. I think there's still more we could do on the academic progress side. I think 30% of our students were withdrawn over the past year because of academic failure, lack of academic progress. So we need to be better at some of those early warning systems, early formative assessments, programme leaders taking responsibility to look at mark profiles early on so that you can look at where there might be some issues. All that sort of stuff we're going to try and get in place quickly. And that leads me on to programme leaders training, which we are rolling out as a compulsory part of our offer to academic staff who's a programme leader over the coming year. Sue Horder and Ali Bloomfield are heading that up, and this is so that we can assure ourselves that everybody is on the same page in terms of that programme leader role. The people who've gone through this genuinely have said they found it really helpful. And it's not just about academic matters, it broadens out to help you consider where that fits in with the wider work of the university, whether it's financial work, professional services, etc. So I commend that to you. And my final thing in terms of doing things well, and again this is just for academic staff, apologies, professional services, our workload allocation model. This is critically important in terms of us assuring a fair, transparent approach to workload allocation. But to remind you that it is also negotiable and flexible. This isn't a straitjacket, it's a flexible framework. But again, we cannot use this to inform decision making, to support people with their workload, if we don't have people putting the data in and going through the full process. This is something that is supported equally by the university and by UCU, our Union for Academic Staff. There would have been some of you in the room who came to our workshop last July, which I delivered jointly with Gareth, one of our UCU reps, and I think that was incredibly helpful because I think people saw then that this is something we need to get on top of in terms of assuring fairness across the institution. So a few things there for us to think about in terms of doing things well. And I can guarantee if we do some of these things well, we will all benefit and we'll all continue to smile. Okay, last couple of slides. Here's old Jean. Back in 2013, so this would have been, 2013 would have been the year after the student number caps were lifted, I think, wasn't it? So quite a significant time. So 6 years ago, a colleague said to me, there's a large storm cloud over higher education. We can't afford to wait until the storm passes, and we have to learn to dance in the rain. That stayed with me. I love that phrase. We have to learn to dance in the rain. It's not always easy, but I have added this little bit on the end as well, just kind of, keep us a little bit more buoyant. And we can enjoy the fresh air and the sunshine that's found in the mountaintop moments once the storm has passed. And sometimes that's incredibly fresh and exhilarating, isn't it, if you've ever been on top of a mountain after a storm has passed by. But this idea of learning to dance in the rain and supporting each other if we have to dance in the rain, I think is an incredibly important thing and something I'd like you to take away today. Yesterday, Colin Jackson launched our Thank You, JOLC initiative. If you've not said thank you to someone yet, there are plenty of little cards over in reception on the conference desk. They're very, very tiny cards. You literally need to just say thank you and maybe put your name in, or you might not want to put your name in. It can be anonymous if you want to. But what a lovely initiative. And thank you to colleagues who thought of this and brought it to the table for this conference. So it can be something simple, something small, something big, something about work, something from outside of work. I'm sure we can all think of at least one or two people we could say thank you to. And final words. So hopefully you've had a bit of a taste of some incredible things that have happened over the past year where we have worked together. This isn't one person or a small group of people magicking things. It's a team effort, an absolutely team effort, which is absolutely fantastic. We are getting on with developing truly accessible, supportive, innovative and ambitious place to be. I'm incredibly proud of being the Deputy Vice-Chancellor here. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. It's hard, pretty hard work sometimes, and there are quite rainy moments as well as some sunshine moments. But I'm really proud of what we're achieving, and we are definitely on the upwards trajectory as a university. There are plenty of challenges and opportunities ahead, but look forward to working with you all over the coming year, dancing in the rain when we need to, but basking in the sunshine when the opportunity comes. So that's me for today. I really hope you enjoy the rest of today's conference. Don't forget we have Maria's keynote over lunchtime. If you are signed up to a session, please go to it. We do still sometimes have people who sign up and then can't get to it. I know sometimes something crops up, but please support colleagues because they have put a lot of effort into the work that they've done. And the final word from me is I'd just like for us to express our appreciation to Ansgar Jones and Ali and the conference planning team who have enabled things to work incredibly smoothly. This is a very complex operation. Perhaps we could just show our appreciation. Thank you. Have a great day.